Good afternoon and welcome to the Bold New Zealand Champion and Champion Fours here at Pukekohe. We're down to the final stages. We're about to cover the semi-final, one of the semi-finals of the men's fours, and running in parallel to that will be the semi-final of the women's fours as well. So the play will be underway in but a moment. The players are out on the green, and we'll be covering the game between the Thames Club with Adam Hayward skipping, Matt Johnson, Jason Prout and Mark Matthews leading, and they're up against the Manawatu side from Terrace End of Shane Rogers, David Newell, Jason Ranganui and Ken Ferguson. 15 ends, and they got their way through there. This morning, of course, we had the quarterfinals, and we had the Scott Mansfield side of Marlborough. They were up against the team from Invercargill, and Mansfield from Marlborough running out the winners by 10 shots to 9. They had the Northland side, Ian Bowick, up against Clint Park of Wanganui, and it was the Bowick side that ran out the winners by 13 shots to 8. Adam Hayward defeated David Clark of Counties Manukau by 13 to 12, and Shane Rogers of the Manawatu defeated Nick Thompson of Auckland 11-9. So in the semi-finals, we've got Scott Mansfield of Marlborough up against Steve Sanders of Southland, and Adam Hayward of Thames up against Shane Rogers of Manawatu, and that's the game that we'll be covering. In the women, I can tell you the semi-finals are about to get underway, and we have got Karen Hema of Auckland, who earlier this morning defeated Sharon Sims, and she's playing the county's local team, Sharon Sigrun, who defeated Barbara McGregor, and they're her match this morning. In the other semi-final, Wendy Jensen of North Harbour, who defeated Sarah Scott this morning, up against the Tania Wheeler skip side, who ran out the winners over Jenny Anderson of Canterbury by 14 shots to 11. So we're bringing you this afternoon on Sky Sport Next the semi-final of the men's fours, and after that game we'll be bringing you the final of the women's fours here from Pukekohe. With me this afternoon for this men's semi-final is Gary Murawai, well-known player, of course, now of the Wairarapa, and of course former North Harbour player. So welcome, Gary, and good to have you along with us for the afternoon with this game.
Thanks, Kevin.
So 15 ends, and the jack's been delivered on the first end of this Pukekohe complex here. It's about 20 years, I think. Gary and I were talking about it before, since this surface went down, and still in good playable condition, I suppose. The carpet does seem to have a bit of wear marks on it, Gary, doesn't it? It does seem to. Well, it's had a lot of play on it over 20 years, I presume.
It sure has, and it's still running very, very well.
So here we have on the mat now the Thames Valley lead, Mark Matthews. Well, Mark Matthews, the son of very well-known former Waikato and Thames Valley player Val Matthews, well-known, formerly of Patararoo, now, of course, playing out of Thames. And Val, of course, has won all sorts of events, played in all sorts of representative sides, and playing number 2 for the side from the Manawatu, Jason Ranganui, Terrace End, and I believe, Gary, that Terrace End is about to become a newly amalgamated club in the Manawatu.
Yeah, that's right. I had a quick chat with the team, and they were saying this is their last tournament. They'll be wearing the Terrace End uniform, and they're proud to be here in the semis. After that, it's going to be called Bowls North End.
So does that mean the Northern Club and the famous Northern Club, the Skoglin Club,
That's right,
and Terrace End are coming together to form one? And I presume they'll be at the Northern Club, I would imagine. Is that where they're going to be?
They are, and they made a point that it's going to be called 2 words, North and End.
Oh, so they've retained those names have been iconic in the Manawatu now, of course, for a number of years. And it's a sign of the times now, because we're seeing the amalgamation of clubs, and looking at the head now, it looks as it is that bowl of Jason Ranganui, who's holding shot, and the Thames players, Adam Hayward, the skip, of course, former North Harbour player as well, now playing out at Thames. Shane Rogers, the skip of the Terrace End side, very accomplished player, won a number of centre titles, and of course has represented Manawatu in the past. And Dave Newell played, I think, for Manawatu this year. I think he was in the Manawatu side. The number 3, as he watches, bowled, going to be a metre short, run short of the head. The green looks to be about 14 seconds. Gary, you'd know playing on it, 14, 15?
Yeah, 14 and a half, yeah.
So the number 3 for the Hayward side, Matt Johnson, reasonably young player, just going to go by on the outside of...
Interestingly enough, he was saying that he's been bowling 20 years, so...
Really?
He started when he was in high school.
So he's might be youngish in age, but plenty of years of experience on the greens.
Definitely. Six or seven centre titles.
Mind you, Wairarapa this year have one of the a unique experience, didn't they, in the centre. They had a player in your representative side who was, well...
Oh, he was very advanced in years of bowling. I think it was about 4 months.
And played pretty well too.
He played very, very well.
So we've got now again Matt Johnson. He's tightened his line on this bowl as it breaks its way towards the head. Looks to be on a fairly good line. It's got the weight to get all the way down. No, it hasn't. And yesterday, Gary, I was just saying to you, I had the pleasure of covering for the Olympics at Ryman, first ever world virtual game of bowls, where we had one green in Christchurch playing and a green in Hamilton, and the Hamilton one has been played live in front of me, and the other one in Christchurch, and they're placing the bowls as they arrived and formed the heads from there.
Amazing.
It's amazing, I can tell you. It's fairly lengthy, I can assure you of that, and it's not the most simplest game to commentate, I can assure you, because you've got a whole lot of split screens, and but it was a new innovation, first, and it was won by the Hamilton side, as we see this first bowl of Shane Rogers just go by the head. They've all really, if you look at this first head, Gary, they've all been pretty good at taking their green, haven't they? That's all, so that's a good sign.
They're all in good form, aren't they?
Yeah, Hayward now on the back end trying to sit on, not going to come back, trying to sit on that bolt on the outside of the head.
I was told that Adam has also been playing and has played out of North Harbour and in Australia. Oh,
in Australia, I knew
yes.
I knew he played at North Harbour. So the last bowl now of Shane Rogers, the skip from Terrace End in this semi-final. Looks to be on the wider side, because we've had a month now of four consecutive weeks of champion events around the country. The singles at 9-0, the pairs in Dunedin. Last week, of course, the triples in Hastings. And today, the fours at Pukekohe. A tighter line here from Hayward. Needs to get past his front and is going to do so. Just going to slip by. Certainly a different line with that bowl, Gary, wasn't it? Is it
very good line.
So just checking to see. Oh, looks a big, fairly chunky number to start with. We'll see in but a moment. Just the one?
Yeah,
no, it's 3 shots. Not quite sure how they arrived, because I know the bowl on the side they pulled out, which surprised me. It seemed to be quite a long way out of the head. So the first end completed here in the semi-final. And the other semi-final, as I say, see Scott Mansfield of Marlborough up against Ian Bowick of Northland. And it's good to see, really, Gary, in the semi-finals. These are guys that have come through their winning their club championships, then of course their centre championships, and now into a New Zealand semi-final. And it's really it's good for the game, isn't it?
It is, and I think you'll probably hear a bit more about the other game and some of the challenges some of their team have had to overcome to be here.
That's been a challenge for them, has it?
Mm.
Well, they're here. So Jack's been delivered, and Ken Ferguson the lead for the Manawatu side. Playing his first bowl, quite a short and length head on the backhand. And the CEO of Bowls New Zealand, Mark Cameron, will be keeping us up to date as well of the scores in the two of the women's semi-finals as well. So Mark Matthews from the Thames Club on the forehand. Does seem though, just looking from here, Gary, that the breaking point into the jack seems pretty good. Seems
on both hands.
So Ken Ferguson had good weight with his first on that backhand side, just a slight correction of the line on the backhand, and he's brought that line. He's brought the line in.
Very nice.
Just get past the front bowl of Matthews, and Will gets right down towards the jack, just sits in behind it, all but a toucher. And we were remarking last week, Gary, it's the same in fours, of course, as well, but you know, in these games, your leads play such an important role, don't they, to get that?
A huge role. Helps set it up, puts the pressure on the opposition, and lets you relax. If your lead gets there first, you can start to place your bowls.
Well, you can attack and defend at the same time, can't you? Whereas, of course, last week, you know, as you would well know, the triples, two-bowl triples, it's a bit of a cutthroat game. You know, there's not much. The margin of error is very small, isn't it?
You have to have them on the head.
So here's number 2, Jason Ranganui, again coming down on that backhand line, just looks to be on that slider wider side, but in applause from the skippers is now breaking in towards the head. You know, very good first bowl, just falls jack low.
Jason is so happy to be here. He's a third-year bowler, but he's got one centre title, and he's just overjoyed to be part of this.
Well, he certainly started off well for his side, and great effort for the third-year player, the Terracine Club. We see Jason Prout, of course, on the carpet, of course, as well. Gary, you get those short bowls running in that line, on that jack line, just makes it that more challenging, doesn't it?
It does.
It just reduces your shot options, really, and it's
I think definitely the game is to control that 1 to 2 feet behind the jack.
Yeah, it's really about getting back towards that centre line,
yes.
Isn't it?
Yes.
And if you're outside that, if you're inside on that centre line, and you're jack level or in and around the head, you're certainly going to give your team a good opportunity, because 15 ends isn't a lot of ends, really.
No,
it can go very quickly, can't it? So Adam Hayward now saying to his number 2, to Jason Prout, change hands, play with a yard of weight, down on the backhand. Just looks to be, needs to come back, coming back towards that line. Just going to go by, but that was certainly the weight. That was a shot to play, Gary, wasn't it, down there?
It was. I was just talking to Jason too. He's a replacement for this team. The original couldn't play, and he's also another one that's very happy to be here.
Well, it's good to see, you know, representing their club, and of course the Terrace End. It's you know, this is a big occasion for them, really, isn't it? Because, you know, that proud number 2 club.
Sure is.
But we're seeing that, of course, all over the country, aren't we, with clubs now at last taking the positive move of merging, amalgamating, bringing other sporting codes in as well. 9-9, of course, is a real example of that, isn't it? That bringing other community activities into the club, it certainly just creates a good future.
It does, and I personally think that clubs need to be viable, and combining like these two are with Terrace End and the other is the way to go.
Well, we've seen it in Auckland now, very much so, with the Onehunga and Hillsborough amalgamation coming together to form Royal Oak, and they're a very strong club now on the green, and they're also a very, very strong club in their community activities and other things which go on. It's a bit of a hub now in the area, and in a good location, and those are the things that really, they're the future, aren't they, really, moving forward?
Yeah. This looks a bit tight.
Playing with, it depends how much weight it's got down through that line. It's going to get onto the front bowl, gets it, just slides off, still lying 2 shots would be the Terrace End side. He scored a 3, of course, on that first end in the semi-final of the men's champion and champion fours. And of course, Gary, the other difference now with the sport, isn't it, that as you well know, in the years gone by, it was traditionally that really a summer sport. Well, now with all of these new complexes that have been built and covered greens and all sorts of things, that it's now becoming
52 weeks a year. Yes, definitely.
It's all year round. We've certainly been commentating all year round, that's for sure, and more to come.
I think Shane's looking at a weighted shot here by the look of that.
Standing, examining the head is the Terrace End skip. On the forehand, looks to be on a narrow line down through there. Might get a slide off the bowl, didn't have the weight to make any difference really. And with the shot options for the team skip Hayward, he's on the mat, so not a lot of options really, is there?
No.
So going to the forehand is Adam Hayward on just the second end of 15, playing with weight, but going to be well wide of the target. He has to be tight just around that front bowl really, Gary, to get down to that area.
I'm surprised Shane's short of the jack at the moment.
So Shane Rogers now, he's on a wider line with this bowl. He's following it. I think it's going to get all the way down, for sure. So Hayward looking at his options to get down. You can see the yellow jack down through there. Needs to tighten his line to get a result down through there. I don't know if he has. In fact, was very much on the wide side. So it's 2 ends gone now. Just get confirmation of that score.
Another 2.
2 it was. I just knew 2 it is. So the Terrace End side, they're away to a good start, Gary. 5 after 2. It's early days, certainly is, but it's always nice to have your nose in front.
Agreed. 5 is a very nice start, especially against a team like this.
Well, it's a matter really of getting those bowls. And we saw there the lead, Ken Ferguson, give the Terrace End side a very, very good start, and won't be questioning the length of this one, I think. See the jack and Adam Hayward just pacing out to see what that length looks like.
One of the things I've noticed is they're using the yellow jacks here, which are the heavier ones.
The heavier ones, aren't they?
And if you don't watch out, they're not going as far as you're used to with the white jacks.
Is that because for some reason I've always had yellow jacks here? Nine, I think they use the white jacks, don't they?
No, use both. The yellow jacks are used at 9-eye by the PBA normally, but there is a marked difference between the two. Even a jack hitting a white jack will go a lot further than it will if it hits a yellow jack.
I know when we covered a couple of years back the Premier League, the indoor Premier League, they used the yellow jacks with the Australian sides. Another good opening bowl here from Ken Ferguson. Mark Matthews now at the lead, the team's lead on his forehand. A jack level first bowl on this, the 3rd end by the Ken Ferguson. And Matthews just breaking in towards the head now. Will do so and draw under the Ken Ferguson bowl. That'll give them some encouragement. That's a good arc on the bowl. Pretty good crowd here today. I noticed when I arrived here this morning, Gary, there's a Pukekohe side, of course, still going in the women's, so that makes a difference as well, doesn't it?
It is, but most of the teams are still here. The ones that have lost are enjoying the bowls.
So Ken Ferguson trying to get underneath that shot bowl of Mark Matthews, needs another roll, not going to do so, finishes just lower the jack, but surprising, changing his hand is Matthews onto the backhand after drawing the shot. One would have thought there was still that draw under that natural draw line.
It is a surprising change.
So going on the wider side will finish to still lower the jack. More than likely really would have been, in my view, better another bowl. It's quite safe. So Jason Ranganui, as Gary was saying, delighted to be here, third-year player on terrace end on the backhand. Looks to definitely be on that wider side, Gary.
It does.
I don't know. Does it play a wider, narrower side out there? Or not?
Both hands are playing well. There's a couple of little tricky bits, but I am surprised too. I would have stayed on that other hand.
So you see now this bowl of Jason Prouts is on a narrower line. May well sit inside the Matthews bowl and rolls it out of the head, but it was still the shot. Just set the face of the Thames bowl. Still Thames holding the shot. And Jason Ranganui with now his second bowl on end 3. Just needs to bring that line in fractionally. You can see from the bowl of Jason Prouts is definitely, he's brought a narrower line, but he's got weight and will go. Well, it's the deepest bowl on the rink, but no one ever really complains about that early on the head, do they?
No.
It's fine to have it back there, isn't it?
100%. It's far better than being short.
So the line again really been brought in this time by Jason Prout. Going to sit inside the bowl. Will it count? If it falls in, it may well count. And the Manawatu 2 skip, Shane Rogers, just having a look. So we'll see. Looks like Dave Newell is going to come down on that forehand.
He's got a lot to rest on there.
Yeah, there's about 5 bowls sitting in that area. Well, there is 5 bowls to sit in that area, and he's on a good line towards the jack, but just going to slide away. But certainly, there's only 1 bowl narrow on that line.
Good catcher.
Very good catcher. A couple of metres over. So Matt Johnson on this, the third end, trailing 5-0 as the Thames side after 2 of the 15 ends. He's got a better line here, but hasn't got the weight to get all the way to the jack. Certainly had the line to, and I'm sure we'll see Dave Newell play a similar sort of shot, perhaps not quite so heavy, no, changing his hand. Again, I still think that it's a nice shot under there to the trail of the jack. So Newell on his backhand gives it a flick. He's certainly down under that line. Is it going to have to get inside the bowl to get the result? In fact, sits on another bowl. Certainly got a flick on the delivery there, Gary.
Sure did. It is still interesting, isn't it, that they're persisting with this backhand?
Yeah, it is interesting because it just, I know it's early in the game, but it just doesn't seem to give the same consistency.
A flick on the jack isn't going to be good.
No, going to the, I just want to get a touch on the back of the jack, does so. Will still only be 2. But surely now for the Manawatu 2 side, that terrace end side, coming down the hand that we spoke about, there's a good rest down there. There's a 3-bowl rest where there's no rest or nothing on the other hand, is there?
No, and they've got 2 very nicely placed catches at the back there.
Yeah, they've got a couple of bowls that are just a metre in behind the jack, and any jack movement will favour the terrace end side.
And from what I've seen this morning, Shane's in very good form, so we'd expect he won't be far away.
He's a pretty good player, been around for a while and a number of the events. Looks as though he's going heavy and hard Well, that shot surprises me, to be fair. It's not what I would call it. Yeah, I wouldn't call it as a percentage scoring shot.
No, well, they're holding 3 shots.
You know, it's
At least 2. A measure for 3. Maybe a bit of nerves. Just clear the nerves and draw it.
well, it's a nice just touch down through there. So we'll see what Adam Hayward can do here. The Tim skip on the forehand. And that looks quite a good line as it's coming towards the yellow jack now. Looks a very good line, in fact. And moves the jack slightly, because that's a Matthews bowl sitting right down on the right-hand side of the head. That could have... 3 down is the call. Let's see what weight Shane Rogers decides to play on this bowl. Remembering, of course, Adam Hayward's still got a bowl left.
I think when you're 5-0 up, second shot's not too bad.
I agree, absolutely. You can't score every end, but you don't want to, after doing the good work to get the good start, you certainly don't want to, I'm not going to say chuck shots away, but just, it's a better percentage shot now down on the forehand. It's exactly
it's
what,
a bit wide.
He's wide of it, but that was certainly the best percentage shot. And as it turned out, if he'd had the line, he had reasonably good draw weight. Hayward will be endeavouring to add to the count. And of course, thanks to Tamara and Colin, who's sitting alongside us, who do all the hard work here. They bring all this week after week. They bring this coverage, thanks to skysportnext.
I must say, I've been a fan. I've been watching for a long time, since I've got back to New Zealand.
We enjoy bringing it. We're thoroughly enjoying it. And this looks like this will count as well. This bowler Hayward, this is right to the jack. Sit on his own bowl, turn around the corner. Gets applause from the terrace end player as well.
4 shots.
And it is 4. So we've gone very quickly from 5-0 to 5-4. And how things can change very quickly. In fact, Gary, Tamara and I started, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago at the National Championships in Dunedin at Tairi, and we had about 3 mobile phones and some cords and cable and a couple of microphones, and we managed to bring the Nationals live, and from there it's gone to what we've got now. People come and see what we've got here now, and you would agree it's like a TV production operation. It's
sure is. It's very, very well done.
So on the mat now is Mark Matthews, the lead for the Tim side, who just on the third end scored a 4, and now 5-4. And remembering, also going on is the other men's semi-final, which is Scott Mansfield of Marlborough up against Ian Bowick of Northland. And the women's semi-finals out at the same time, where we've got Karen Hema of Auckland up against the local Pukekohe side, Sarah Sugren and her side, and Wendy Jensen, who in fact playing out of North Harbour, but a Pukekohe girl, up against the Tania Wheeler side from the Wairarapa.
Very happy to see that. Not that I'm biased, being the chair of Bowls Wairarapa.
You should be. So I note now there's a few Wellingtonians who are travelling over the hill to play a bit of bowls in the... it's good to see. It's good for our bowls to have good competition, and it's good for them to have I suppose a different atmosphere, more of a small town New Zealand atmosphere. And the clubs in Wairarapa, Gary, everything's going good. I know there's some good couple of clubs who've got a very big activity with like business house bowls, community events, and that's bowls now. It's about a community hub, isn't it?
It is, and we've put up that we want our centre to be the best little centre in New Zealand. We're never going to be a big centre, but we've had 25% growth in the last year. And as you were saying, a lot of social club members or social members that are coming along for 1 or 2 nights a week and enjoying it.
So we see a toucher there from Ken Ferguson with his second bowl, draws right on top of the jack. Well, in a lovely area, the Wairarapa, of course, isn't it? There's a
Very, very nice.
to get away from the city, as a number of people have done, haven't they? And moved into the one of the wine bowls.
Well, definitely the place to come for wine.
So good attempt here from the number 2, Jason Prout. Just finishes jack level.
It's just looking like they're just holding out a bit there. They're not coming back to the centre.
There's not that last metre of draw, is there?
No.
Just doesn't seem to be working back to the centre line, as we see Jason Ranganui. So here's Jason Prout.
This looks on a good line.
Second bowl, just needs to get past the front, gets a feather off it. So on the draw will be Jason Ranganui with his second bowl. Did his first bowl make second shot? Gary did it. I was a bit distracted in the front there.
It is, yes.
So it is Terrace End holding 2. Gets inside here, will draw a counter, sits and gets
Very
a
good.
touch. So it's a good rest down there, though, isn't it? A good yard on rest really down through there, isn't it?
I can tell you he won't be short.
No, it's certainly for Matt Johnson. It's shots down there to reach inside there. Yard a bit of weight. And he's going to do just that. Looks on a line to the jack, gets the front bowl. Well played by the number 3 from Thames. Took out 2 of the shot bowls. And that shot was certainly on Gary, wasn't it, to play down there with weight.
Very well played. Still room for this draw.
So David Newell, the number 3 for the Terrace End side. This looks on a good line as it's making its way back towards the yellow jack now. Needs to get under this bowl to get a shot, and will do so. Gets applause from his teammates. And really, you'd think really Gary playing through those bowls again is still a good shot option, isn't it?
It looks to me the shot to play, yes. Maybe enough weight to hang around.
Yeah, you want to, no sense in losing bowls off the head. You can play through there with weight, can't you? And still, your bowls still stay in the vicinity.
Yes. Give Adam something to play to if he doesn't hit the target.
Well, this bowler Johnson's going to be is going to be wide, but it doesn't matter because it goes in behind the head, half a metre in behind the head, and that's a very good home actually. That's as good as a result for them to play to. So you heard there the Shane Rogers indicating they're holding 2 shots. It's Dave Newell trying to add to the count after they just dropped a 4 on this, the third end, after jumping out to a 5-0 lead. Got a wider line with this bowl,
Coming back
and he'll
well.
be happy with this bowl as it comes around the bowl and draws right behind the jack. Well, he got a good arc there on the bowl, right back to the centre line, didn't it?
I'm not sure what he's using, but that did come back a long way.
Because it sort of looked to have had what I would term as the old conventional type draw, didn't it?
It did.
Back to the jack. It didn't just, you could see it arcing in towards the jack, so it was certainly always on a good line. So we've got
I think some people will be interested in the stance that Adam's using here, which is what I hear is the shooter stance.
It's different.
It is.
Trying to get down through these bowls, going to run into the terrace end bowl. We'll move one of them out of the head and we'll move one of the counter. It's a wee bit like Kelvin Scott. Like, you never know what hand Kelvin Scott is playing when he gets on the mat. The way Harry lines up, you just don't know. Indication from David Newell is that the Manawatu 2 side, Terrace End, are in fact holding 3 shots. So they'd be very happy, Gary, wouldn't they, if they could grab back a three scoring number after dropping that 4. They'd be more than happy to. So Rogers on the forehand from the Terracine Club, doing to add to the count.
Looking like a good line here.
That's a good line, coming down towards the centre line, and the jack now, and this is a good bowl, sits in front of the jack. That's a well-drawn bowl, and does create a bit difficult for Adam Hayward, because it just changes that line, doesn't it? You can't.
It does. He's just wanting to get contact, I think.
So here's Hayward again, trying to get down there. This is on a good line as well. This bowler, Adam Hayward, gets inside this bowler, can get a flick to the jack, and does so. And that was on for sure, Gary, wasn't it?
It was, and he played it very, very well.
Once he got on that line, you could see that breaking in towards the centre line. That shot was certainly on to get into the shot position, and duly did so.
They have to be a bit careful here with the weight they choose. If they can sit it through, and that'll be good. If they put too much weight, they haven't got the back.
They have not, so it's only really just the draw shot, really, because, you know, you don't have to worry about the jack. It's just moving it, getting one to two rolls out of the bowl, isn't it? So Here is Rogers on that forehand, trying to get down to that bowl of Hayward's. It drew the shot, and by goodness, this is on a good line too, trying to get to that mauve bowl. Just moved the bowl, got the jack. Well played.
Very, very well played.
Perfect draw weight just to get that movement and score the 1. That was well played there. Well, we saw Adam Hayward play a magnificent bowl with his last, and equal to the occasion was Shane Rogers. Just draw weight and drew the shot. So I see Mark Cameron about to have a chat with Sharon Sims.
Here we are rinkside, and I'm here with Sharon Sims, legend of the game in bowls. And we were just reminiscing as we came in. We were talking this morning about Shane, their skip. It would appear that he had a little faux pas this morning, Sharon. What happened?
Yes, he came and saw me rather sheepishly this morning and said he went to get his bowls out of the boot this morning and they weren't there. And of course they're staying out at Clark's Beach.
So Shane then came into the Bowls New Zealand office and also rather sheepishly said, "How long have I got?" in a slight panic. But here he is. He's playing in a semi-final. And a little bit about the club. I mean, this sounds like an end of an era for Terrace End.
Yeah, absolutely. It's magnificent to see these guys out there. Ready the last outing for these shirts. Terrace End, they relinquished their land to the council last season and played still as Terrace End out of the Northern Club. Last year.
And what happens next for Terrace End? Where are they going?
They're staying at the North Street Greens, and they're going to amalgamate with Northern, and they will be, I believe it's Bowls North End, Manawatu.
Bowls North End, it's a mouthful, isn't it? Just. Sharon, you've had a good tournament with your Takaro side here, and your bright. I'm
yes.
guessing that's either Mega Mitre 10 or Tui that you're sponsored by.
Both, yes.
Both.
Yes.
Excellent. You've had a nice little tournament. A little bit about your team and how you've come along.
Yeah, we've had a great few days. It's lovely to have. Jess Law played against her many years ago. She's had a long break from the game. She only just came back to the game this last season. I gave her a phone call about a year ago and said, "I hear you might play again. Let's come play." And then the two off the front, Tanya she started playing in November after watching her husband play for 7 years. It's now
first year bowler.
Yeah, it started in November, and MJ's been playing about 3 years. So we've just had been a great weekend. They've done
Brilliant.
So well.
And I guess that's the special thing about this tournament too, is that it's not the big names necessarily that are coming through. We're getting, we're seeing in this game here, Thames versus the Manawatu. We're getting some of the smaller provinces and smaller clubs as well.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I particularly appreciate there's not that many, really stacked teams here, and that's good for your clubs to do that. I mean, certainly we can't afford to do that. We've got such a small club. It's about getting everyone playing and giving them the chance, and it's been great. We've had a really good few days.
Well, you may have the smallest club, but you've got the brightest uniform.
We do.
Back to you, Kevin and Gary.
So here we are back with the fours semi-final, the game between Adam Hayman of Thames and Shane Rogers of Terrace End in the Manawatu. And after 4 of the 15 ends, it is 6-4 to the Manawatu side. After they scored a 4 on the third end, but straight away Shane Rogers and his team came back with a single. Mark Matthews holding the shot, and it was interesting. Gary Murray just remarking to me while Mark Cameron was on that we're now starting to see, we hope we're going to continue to see those bowls coming back to the centre line on the draw, Gary, especially from the front end of your team.
Yeah, they have been playing a bit wide, and I'm surprised they're not wanting to just play through the jack, maybe a foot, just to give themselves a chance.
Well, it's one of the things talking last week in Hastings as well, that you can on carpet and that you can trap yourself by. So I'm trying to dead draw to the jack. You have to be playing a weight which is actually through the jack by a couple of feet.
You do.
Otherwise, you're just going to finish up short, and 9 times out of 10, you're going to finish up sitting on the draw line as well.
Exactly.
And it becomes challenging. So the key thing on carpet is to just give that extra. You really got to think about it and give it that extra yard, as we see.
You'll note even if they cut their green, they aren't running away far. So.
No, they don't. And here, Jason at Ranganui gets a touch on the jack, moves it around the corner. And, of course, sitting back there were the Ken Rogerson bowls, but may well still be, I think, the Mark Matthews Maroney-coloured bowl, which will be shot. Here, Jason Prout. And, of course, the jack's been moved out on to foreign territory there. And that's actually a good bowl from Prout, because the jack's been moved a good couple of feet now off the centre line, and because sometimes when you haven't played there, Gary, can just be a wee bit challenging to find that line to the jack, can't it?
I've found on this green though it is fairly consistent, so you can take your green and it will come back, but it also won't finish a long way, so if in doubt, keep it a little bit tight. So
here's now Dave Newell trying to play down to that line, and is going to do so. And you're right there, Gary, they don't run like on an 18, 19 second natural surface green where they're going to move a couple of metres away from the jack. If you're playing under that centre line, you certainly pay the price. Not quite so challenging here on the carpet. You don't get penalised quite as much as you will on the natural surface greens in the middle of summer.
Probably slightly different tactics, isn't it? You can't afford to dead draw.
Well, you would know from playing in the PBA and knowing what the English and that do. Everything is through
Exactly.
all the time. It's not trying to dead draw to the jack. It's through all the time, and it's trying to rest on bowls.
Yep.
And you don't see many in the UK, especially. You don't see very many short bowls, do you?
No. You don't see much driving either. They back themselves to play through that jack.
So on the mat is Matt Johnson, again trying to get back to that, all the way back to where that jack's been moved. So it's a good attempt, but has it got the weight to get all the way through? No, it won't. Falls out. It was certainly on the line to get to there. As the skips change over on this, the 5th of 15 ends, and shortly we'll get you an update of the other men's semi-final and the women's semi-finals as well. We'll get somebody out and about the greens to give us an update on those scores. Of course, after this, we'll be bringing you the final of the women's fours. The two finals will be played at the same time, but we'll be covering the final of the women's fours. So here is Shane Rogers now on the backhand. This looks on a fairly good line. Gary, how's the weight though? Hasn't got the weight to get all the way down, is it? Trying hard. May well have. So the draw now, of course, for Adam Hayward as well. Yeah, if he plays on that same hand, he's got it. It's a difficult draw, really, because of the front bowls. He's got to try and follow that bowl of his number 3, Matt Johnson, if he can draw inside that. But he knows I just wonder, Gary, whether you're just reducing your chances, your options by trying to play there, really.
I agree. He's even a foot narrow, on the other hand, would have been a
Because
better
as you rightly
option.
say, the bowl's not going to go far, is it?
No.
So if he just gets past that front bowl, even if he's slightly narrow, he's still going to be in the area, isn't it?
He is.
And he's asking a lot of the bowl to come back on that other hand. And
Having seen his bowls, they aren't a big bendy bowl. So
no, they're not at all. And Shane Rogers, he's getting bend out of his bowls. He sits inside here now.
That's very good.
Now, you would think now the shot for Hayward really is following that bowl, making really that last bowl your jack, because you're either going to get the shot or second shot.
Exactly.
Just trying to draw down through bowls is, and they're indicating just the one. Still persisting with that draw. Looks like more than one from here, but of course we're on a different angle than being on the green. So here's Adam Hayward trailing 6-4. He's brought his green in for sure. Now, is it going to get all the way through those bowls? No, got a. And that shot, they say. Out comes the measure. It's a bit deceptive, really, isn't it? They've taken one out. Two it was. That was a bit deceptive.
It was.
How those bowls were placed. But I still think it was. I still think there was better options on the other hand. So 5 ends gone and 6 apiece in this semi-final of the Bowls New Zealand Champion Fours at the Pukekohe Stadium. Gary, this stadium here, I was surprised last week we were in Hastings that that stadium as well is now 20 years old. It was built in 2002, and you would have been in Auckland or North Harbour when this one was opened.
Yes, yes.
So that would be around that same sort of time frame, wouldn't it? So this was the Pukekohe Club, who were in the middle of town here, and they moved here and merged with the Cosy Club, and there is an outdoor green out behind us here. There used to be 2 artificial outdoor greens, now just the one seems to be in operation, and the indoor complex, and right next to the other part of the club, which has always been here, tied in with the Cosy Club or Cosmopolitan Club, is a 10-pin bowling alley, which gets used by the public here in Pukekohe. So it certainly is a good facility.
It's a great facility, isn't it? And looking at the green, I don't know if it's been replaced or not, and perhaps because it doesn't get the UV rays on it from being outside, it lasts, but it's still running very well.
Well, that was interesting last week in Hastings. You know, that carpet in Hastings went down in 2002 and hasn't been touched. And no disrespect to some of the other indoor surfaces, or newer indoor surfaces, I should say, around the country. The surface last week at Hastings was first class.
Yep, I heard a lot of good comments.
And all of the players that I spoke to, all of the players were very complimentary of the surface of what it offered. So, you know, the story of an indoor surface that's got about an 8 to 10 year lifespan. I think if we use Hastings and this one here as an example, if you look after them and care for them right, they will give you a good life.
Exactly. It does make you wonder about the UV rays outside, because it wouldn't have lasted outside.
No, it would not have, absolutely. So he knows this bowl does Shane right, Ken Ferguson. He knew as soon as he let it go out of the hand that he was narrow. First bowl just lower the jack. And it's interesting, we saw Mark Matthews elect to change his hand. The lead for Adam Hayward. We watched this bowler Prout, so question, has it got the weight to get all the way down? No, it won't. And for those in Auckland watching this that are today, remember I had the pleasure this morning of having a chat with Josh de Jong. Josh de Jong was a legend at the St Heliers Club in the old days in Mission Bay with Vic McLean and a whole group. As you see, a good bowl coming in here from Jason Ranganui, and here's Josh, a sprightly 102 years of age, still playing bowls, drove his car down here to the complex here at Pukekohe to support the Carlton girls, because his daughter, of course, plays at Carlton. And Josh was a farmer out at Mangatawhiri down towards Kaiawa way. And yeah, 102 years of age and still playing bowls, driving his car, and sitting here this afternoon.
Amazing, isn't it?
So for all you guys out there who remember Josh DeJong, Josh is still well and enjoying life, watching bowls, and it's fantastic to see. He won. Josh, in fact, won the Club Fours at Buckland in his 100th year.
Amazing. I'd be happy to be watching it at 100 years.
Yeah. So here's the number 3 is going to be narrow, and Adam Hayward. And very shortly we'll give you an update on those other scores. Mark Cameron is going to give us an update around the greens of those other semi-finals, as we see David Newell now holding a couple of shots as the terrace inside, and really this could become a very difficult head to play to, Gary.
Oh,
for the Thames side.
Exactly. I think they've got one more opportunity before that hole's
blocked up, and they've got no way down to the jack, really, have they? There's short bowls, and of course the danger is that Matt Johnson trying to get down there he's breaking in now. This is a valiant attempt. This bowl, that's much needed. That's well played by the number 3 for the Thames side, because as Gary rightly said, it was starting to look very, very difficult down there with short bowls and sitting in the draw line. Shane Rogers indicating to his number 3, David Newell. On the backhand, trying to play to that bowl by the looks. He's trying to get past to get to that last bowl that broke into the head. Won't do so, but he won't be too disappointed with that, because certainly opens that line up to get played down to that Thames bowl, and there's no danger there for him whatsoever.
No, and Shane's very, very good at these shots.
Only needs a couple of rolls, doesn't it, on the bowl of Matt Johnson's. And this is the 16th of 15 in this semi-final of the New Zealand Champion and Champion Fours, and this will be our last event until we move to Dunedin in September, where we will be covering the North-South match, bringing you, Brenda Van Nistelrooy and myself, bringing you all the live action from the North-South match. This bowl of Adam Hayward's not going to get down, might just... Oh no, it doesn't really change that line. The line really is just to that bowl, Gary, isn't it, for Shane Rogers?
It's probably going to go a bit quicker now.
Looks as though he is. Just the grip on the bowl looks as it's coming quick, trying to get to the bowl. And he got the front, not the target there he wanted to get to. So Hayward been down to have a look at the head. And also immediately after the North-South match the following weekend, Tamara and myself will be bringing you the finals of the Professional Bowls Association finals from the stadium in Dunedin. We have, of course, the lucky winners there get trips to England and Scotland. Well, we hope, with who knows with the COVID thing, but that's the aim anyway. So Adam Hayward trying to get another bowl in on the head. He's got a good line, needs to get inside this bowl of his leads, gets a touch on the Marshall bowl. Asking whether they're 2 down now. Is the man of a 2 skip. Just the 1 down was the call from Dave Newell. It's interesting though, Gary, I just see the speed that we saw Shane Rogers driving at. You don't see much of that in the game now, because you can
Not with the new bowls that you can hold up.
Absolutely,
Yep.
absolutely. You can play the shots differently, can't you?
Exactly.
And you're also the chance of playing with a lot of weight, of actually destroying as well some of your options that you're trying to get to score from. And here is an option here to play down with, 1.5 metre of weight. If he gets inside, he could get to the jack, and it's quite safe playing that shot. And I just wonder whether he's going with less weight this time. He's going to err on the conservative side, and he is trying to get down, as we just said. Needs
wide.
to get back. Looks to be on the wide side. Certainly it was a good attempt to draw all the way around it, but won't do so. Trying to get around to the jack. Needed to fall in. Won't do so. And just see what they decide upon. I think it was just the one was what the indications were.
Another one to Thames Valley.
So Thames Valley now, after being behind after two ends, behind 5-0, now in fact lead 7-6 after 6 of the 15 ends. And as I said, Mark Cameron is out around the greens, and he'll bring us very shortly the updates from both the two women's semi-final and the other men's semi-final. The other men's semi-final is Scott Mansfield of Marlborough up against Ian Bowick of Northland, and Karen Hema of Auckland playing Sharon Shagroon of Counties Manukau, Wendy Jensen of North Harbour playing Tania Wheeler of the Wairarapa. And those semi-finals, and of course then later on this afternoon we'll be bringing you the final of the women's fours. Good opening bowl here from Mark Matthews, starting to find his line a bit now as the Thames Valley lead.
They were telling me he's won Player of the Year down there, or up there for a couple of times.
Well, of course, the Matthews name in both the Waikato was Mother Val Matthews, played for Waikato out of the Batararoo Club for a long time. And in fact, today I saw here one of the legends of the Batararoo Club of years gone by, Neville Risbridge, who of course was his name.
Hello to Neville. I haven't seen him for a long time.
His name has been synonymous, wasn't it, with Batararoo, Kevin Robinson and Neville Risbridge. They were two of the, and Sam Kennedy, they were the Batararoo Tokoroa guys, and their names were synonymous with bowls in the Waikato. And equally in the women, Val Matthews, who played, of course, for many, many years from Batararoo, now living in Thames and is part of, and still playing actively. In fact, was in the champion triples last week in Hastings, and that's her son Mark Matthews, who's leading for Adam Hayward in this Thames side. As we see Ken Ferguson trying to get to that jack line, just going to be a roll short. And you hear Adam Hayward holding the shot to his number 2, Jason Prowse. Interesting, isn't it, Gary? All of a sudden, you score a few shots, the body language changes, doesn't it?
They're looking confident.
Yeah, now he's talking, applauding the team as Adam Hayward. This makes a big difference, get points on the board. So Shane Rogers indicating to Jason Ranganui on his backhand. And does have a wider drawing bowl, but that's going to go by wide and heavy. And in fact, goes to the ditch. Now I'll cross over now to Mark Cameron, who will give us an update of the other semi-finals.
Hey, we're rinkside here again, and I've just learnt about from one lady about a bottle of wine in a bath, an incident that happened once before. Who was that? It was one of you three. I know we're supposed to be doing the live updates, but we're just learning from Julie, Janice, Jill. You'd think the fourth one would be Jay as well, but Sharon as well. Welcome. Are you enjoying the games?
Absolutely fabulous.
Brilliant.
Right. Yep.
You're now on TV, okay? So you can't hide behind us anymore. Just a quick update from around the other rinks. The women's semi-final, Auckland's Carlton Cornwall are up 6-0 against Counties Bowls Pukekohe. And the other women's semi-final, North Harbour's Takapuna are down 3-5 to Wairarpa's Featherston. And in the men's semi-final, the other semi-final being played at the moment, Marlborough's Kaikoura are up 5-4 over Northland's Whangarei. And they've all played roughly 5 or 6 ends. Back to you, Kevin.
Thank you, Mark, for that update. And we'll have updates of those other semi-finals throughout the afternoon. Of course, we'll be bringing you the women's final later on this afternoon. And it's still the Tim side, the bowl of Mark Matthews, the lead holding shot. There's a good attempt here from David Newell. Just needs to get past the 2 feet of weight. In fact, we'll be holding 2, would you say, Gary?
Looks 2 to me.
The Tim side. The first bowl of Matt Johnson's is more than likely would be the second shot. Looking from here, this looks to be, though, under the line. Doesn't want to get a touch on the front of these bowls. Just goes by. Didn't want to touch those bowls. Dave Newell, he was only really a roll and a bit away of drawing the shot on that backhand. I'd be interested to know what bowls that Dave Newell is playing with, because he certainly seems to get
he's getting the turn, isn't he?
He's certainly getting the turn.
And he's had very good weight.
So going by, will sit inside. So they change over on this, the 7th end. It is, looks like it's 2 to the Tim side of Adam Hayward and Matt Johnson, Jason Prout and Mark Matthews. As they change over, sort of dispute is there against the, just questioning the score. We've got a 7-6 here to the Tim's side. We'll just see if anything changes on the board. They've got it at 7-6 after. Well, they've got it at 7 ends.
It's 6, isn't it?
Yeah, I just think I heard them say we were too many ends. So they're just changing that scoreboard around. See the former Bolt New Zealand president, Jeanette Sinclair, sitting there with former New Zealand player Marlene Castle, following the Carlton Cornwall girls' progress in their semi-final. As we see Adam Hayward now on his forehand, trying to get down to the Marshall bowl. That's his target. If he gets past that, he's going to. Yeah, and you know, Gary just pointing to me. Just does seem a wee bit lazy on that draw.
Yeah, just a little straightener just before it hit the...
Just didn't come, but not coming back. This is Shane Rogers now, after leading 5-0, trailing 7-6. This certainly looks on the wider side.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised there. Shane had some options onto his own.
What? Yeah, I agree. I was surprised with that shot, to be fair. I thought he might have tried to play through down to the wee bit of weight to the Ken Ferguson bowl, which is locked in there. 2 rolls of it. And it's interesting, you can see Matt Johnson indicating to Adam Hayward, we don't really mind if you just come in behind the head, because as Gary rightly say, there is a, what I would say, a good percentage option shot. So here is Hayward, definitely got a different line with this bowl. This is breaking down towards the centre line now. If he gets him in, not quite. 2 more rolls. And I think now, Gary, that Shane Rogers come down to have a look. He may well be looking, well, because
he's got a bit of a problem now, because he, if he had have used his first to go slightly heavy and narrow, he had his last if he had to save. If it went wrong, now he's has to take that risk, doesn't he?
Well, it's the old story, isn't it, from a skip's point of view. Now, when there's shots that can be played with a bit of weight option, rather than trying to have to dead draw the shot, it's I think it's a better percentage option because we all know you try and dead draw it, you finish short, and it looks as though we're going to see Shane Rogers now. He's still persisting on that backhand, trying to draw down through that port to get to the shot. Needs to get inside this bowl, not outside it, and is going to go by. I just think I agree with you, Gary, there's better percentage options. I think on playing down with some weight.
So I am surprised. That said, Shane's a very, very good draw bowler too, so he backs himself.
So, see, one's been taken out. That's the bowl of Mark Matthews has been come out of the head. Definitely the shot. And now Matt Johnson just running the tape around. 2 it is. 9-6 now. Well, it's interesting, Gary, we've certainly seen the last 3 ends, a 2, a 1 and a 2. How you can just get those little mini breaks, can't you? And of course you run out of ends. That's the difficulty, isn't it? You know, you don't want to be down at end 12 and be sort of 5 or 6 behind, do you? Because it's very difficult to claw a big number back.
And you can see the body language. These Thames Valley guys are feeling good.
They are feeling good, and you know the good thing is about they now have just put the early start behind them, and now just into their drawing game, all set up that end really from the very first bowl from their lead. Mark Matthews is now on the backhand, and he seems to have got that line now pretty well. Gary, hasn't he? He's going to go by the jack just by only a few feet, but right back to the centre line. So
very good.
Seems to have that line pretty much right now. Just quickly again, in the other semi-final, it's Scott Mansfield of Marlborough up against Ian Bowick of Northland, and it is 5-4 to the Marlborough combination after 5 ends. In the women's semi-finals, it is Karen Hema of Auckland up against the Pukekohe skip of Sharon Seagroon, and it is 6-0 that Karen Hema leads that match. And in the other semi-final, it is Wendy Jensen of North Harbour, who is up against Tania Wheeler of the Wairarapa, and it is 5-3 to Tania Wheeler.
Just looking at the Wairarapa team, Tania's lead is a 17-year-old, Olivia, who's playing very, very good bowls.
17-year-old?
Yes.
Amazing. That's Olivia Mensah.
That's right.
And what club do they play out of?
Featherston,
isn't it?
Yes.
Because Tania last week was at the champion triples in Hastings.
She's had a good year. She was also in the pairs.
Won the pairs as well.
Yes.
So it's had a very good year. So here is Jason Prout, the number 2 for the Thames side. That bowl's certainly narrow on the line, but Marshall again has done the job, and just the difference it makes. He gets his bowl counting, sitting right up, literally both his bowls sitting right on the centre line. Straight away they become effective bowls on the head, don't they? And
exactly.
It's, you know, ineffective bowls, we know it always happens, but it's just endeavouring. The more effective bowls that you can get, the more chances you've got of building heads.
Yep.
In the last few ends, because of the work that Mark Matthews has done off the front, it's enabled the Thames Valley side not to have to be chasing the shot at the back end of the game. It's been reversed. So Jason Prout has got a wider line with this, his second bowl on this, the 8th end, and just going to run out of weight. Certainly had a good line. So what's your thoughts, Gary, now the Champion of Champions have been reintroduced, the format, section play, everyone gets,
Very, very, very good. And it's got to be good for people's bowls to be playing the best there is. And to be fair, there's some teams that were surprised to get here that have continued surprising.
Well, they have. If we look at at each of the events last, we saw the team from Nelson go up against Leif Selby and James Williams in the final of the men's peers. We more than likely saw an upset with Paris Breakout and Olivia Bloomfield defeat Sarah Scott and Bronwyn Stevens in the final of the peers. Last week in the triples, the Kaikarai time side up against a very strong Mike Galloway side, who I must admit were very, very impressive last week.
Very good, weren't they?
They played very, very well. Gavin Brown off the front was he was first class.
Yeah, I caught up with Gavin today. He's enjoying his bowls.
He's good. Yeah, he is. The children now. Well, it's interesting. Both Galloway and himself took a child break sabbatical as their children grew up and now back playing. And of course, Mike were in the Somerset singles earlier on in the year, and now part of the Blackjack, the high performance squad. And we were remarking last week about it that with the Commonwealth Games coming up in England, Mike Galloway's got one of those deliveries that you could take anywhere in the world. But
Yes, hasn't he?
Just needs a slight adjustment for the heavier winter greens, but he's certainly he's got a delivery which is well. Him and Leif Selby in the peers were both very similar deliveries. So you see the Manawatu side now. Gary, the pressure going on them. David Newell now, he's down.
He's got the weight, he's got a good line.
He's got a good line to get to the jack here. There's the Manawatu, number 3. This looks a good ball from the number 3. Yeah. That's a touch on it, sits right in behind the jack. And that looked good all the way down, really, Gary, didn't it? It always looked as though it was going to be in the jack area.
He's playing with confidence, Dave, and is it... I don't think he's been far away any end so far. He's
been pretty consistent, hasn't he? Yep. Right throughout. And of course, it's important here for the site for the Manawatu guys that they've gone 3 ends now without picking up a shot. But, so that it's psychologically you want to be getting on the board again.
Exactly.
Hayward now endeavouring to reach down to that shot bowl on a good weight, but just going to be on the wide side. But that's the shot to play. Certainly movement of the jack. You can see the 2 bowls sitting in behind there of his number 3s, Matt Johnson. So the right shot to play, and as
there's no chance of it going straight back, so it's a very safe shot too.
So Shane Rogers will be endeavouring on that forehand side to get another bowl on the head. To sit down in amongst those Matt Johnson bowls. Needs to get past his front and is going to do so. This is a good bowl as well. Doesn't want to slice the jack on the outside. And does, but he may well have held on to shot. One down's the call. So didn't alter the head, but was certainly just got the back of the jack.
And if anything, it's made this shot even more attractive. He's got 2 bowls now.
I just heard Adam Hayward say, I've got play down there, and he's tightened that line up to get down to the jack. Neat just gets inside it, going to get the outside of it. But that was certainly the weight, just more than likely a couple of bowls off his line. And I think this is one of those heads right now for the Manawatu boys. Let's not try too hard. Let's take the one and
one looks good, doesn't it?
Decide our length and get on and do the job. And that's exactly what's been decided. There's no need for any heroics there. Getting back on the board's a big thing. 9-7 now after 8 of the 15 ends. Our pleasure, Gary Murawai and myself, to bring you this coverage from the Pukekohe Cosmopolitan Club at their indoor complex. And of course Tamara and Colin, who are really the brains behind the coverage. We're very fortunate in our sport to have people who are quite passionate about being able to bring technology. And if you go back to the earlier days, Gary, of course, trying to get coverage of bowls was nigh on impossible. It's now we're there week after week after week.
And more and more people are commenting, aren't they, that they actually enjoy sitting at home and watching it and keeping up to date. And I think I get asked a lot of questions about the different bowls and why do they use that type of style to deliver. So it's good.
It's certainly good, and I think as well, which is helps as well, Gary. A lot of the formats now that we cover, for example, the likes of the bowls 3-5, and like secondary school bowls, which we'll be doing, just highlights to people that it's not a long, laborious game. It covers all ages. It was interesting in New Plymouth last week, the school holidays. They had Hawke's Bay, Taranaki, Manawatu. I can't remember who the other centre was, but they had 4 secondary school centres playing a bowls 3-5 round robin at the indoor complex at Paratutu.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, fantastic. So, you know, the shorter formats that we're now playing as well, it doesn't encourage membership, and you know, we know if we look at the numbers of Bowls New Zealand, we are fortunate that, and you were talking about some of the numbers of players coming into the game now in the Wairarapa, that overall, numbers-wise, we're one of the few sports that can say that our membership is on the upwards movement.
I think the attraction for a lot of people is that you can have a short game and do it once a week, or you can do it every day.
Absolutely. As we see a toucher being drawn here by Mark Matthews, who certainly lifted his game the last couple of ends. Gary, hasn't he? It makes a big difference. And yeah, if you go back to the days when you and I were both, well, you're still playing, but playing in the Auckland area, you know, it was, if you're playing, it's the whole weekend, literally, isn't it?
Yeah, well, when I started, you had to wear whites, and it had to be the right whites, and if you didn't have it, you couldn't get on the green. Correct.
So the game, like so many other sports out there, has changed, and we see that with the number of younger players that we've got. The Pacifica community now, which is very active. The Aotearoa Bowls as well, which we covered earlier on this year. We're doing the secondary schools, and so we're seeing bowls now as part of the sports curriculum, actively involved in the secondary schools. So yeah, it's on the right. Things are on the up, and who knows? With Brisbane being announced for the Olympics, I know Neil Dalrymple, the CEO of Bowls Australia, that they certainly will be giving it every possible opportunity for bowls to be part of the 2032 Olympic Games. Lot of water to go under the bridge, but well, it's a bowl here that I'd rather forget with number 3 for the Thames side.
He's got lucky.
He got lucky. So your bowls are certainly on the agenda to try and get it through to 2032.
Very good, isn't it?
And we were, as you know, Gary, before we went overseas, that it was a sport that was struggling, and so in a number of ways. But that's all behind us now, and really the sport, at the edge, through to the jack, just goes by. But it's a sport that's on the upward surge now, and it's great to see. And I think, I know that the coverage that we're continuously bringing into people's lounges, or whatever device they want to use.
There's not many other sports in the world that you can get out as a world champion and play against an 11-year-old or a 100-year-old. So it's still the Marshall Bowl, the lead for Thames, which is the shot as we watch this bowler. Johnson's breaking and needs to get under the bowl. Not quite, was certainly on a good line. So Zane Rogers says, kick down here, David, you can draw the jack a couple of about 9 inches. You can make 3 of it. So here's Newell now on his forehand on this, the 9th of 15, and that's going to be narrow. I think he was steering that, Gary, towards that. He was.
He had the old 2-shot philosophy in his mind. And
good weight.
A good weight, steered it, duly steered it under the head. And it's interesting, we were talking last week about this, David Clark and I were talking about in the triples. It was and it was good to see, and now we see it now with Adam Hayward, about play the opposition shot. There's nothing wrong with playing, that's... No. And we saw Mike Galloway a number of times last week in that final, where and by moving the jack only about 3 or 4 inches, it can then straight away alter the shot options as well for
take the shot away from them.
And Adam Hayward straight away saying to his number 3, get a trailer on the jack. Dave Newell having a good look to see who's got shot.
He thinks they're one down.
Doesn't change your shot though. Doesn't change your shot.
So you'd heard Dave Newell saying to Shane Rogers, on this the 9th end, doesn't change your shot. So out of the Terracine Club, and what will be this event, the last event for the name Terrace End. And this looks on a fairly good line. This bowl of Shane Rogers just obscured a bit, trying to get that jack, get in that jack and the touch. And well, it's been well played. Dave Newell certainly liked that bowl. He made a couple of it, or might have made 3 of that, because that in fact is Ken Ferguson's bowl. Is it not sitting in behind there as well?
I think it is. It's also made it a bit interesting for the choice of the next bowl.
Well, of course, it's done what we spoke about just a moment ago, Gary, hasn't it? It's moved the jack, just reduced the shot options.
Yes.
On the backhand is Adam Hayward trying to get down to the draw line, and he's on a good line to the jack. Is he going to get the jack? Just goes through the port. But the right shot to play there, Gary, rather than trying dead right. Drawing. It's...
Yep, 100%. I think Shane has to make a choice now. Does he cover the back, or does he actually go the other hand and move it behind the front bowl?
Well, he can just touch it, and it's one of those shots, as you rightly say. So we've got 9 ends, trailing 9-7. We're holding on the head. Do we try and add? Do we cover? You see, well, we know what shot that Adam Hayward's going to play.
And he's got the back.
He's rightly played he played the right shot, so we know what he's going to do. So here is Rogers on the backhand. Well, you see, I might be a bit quick. Well, I wouldn't be too concerned. In fact, this isn't going to be quick. It's going to be, in fact, lower the jack, but that cuts that line. No change. Still plays that same line, same weight.
Yep, he'll be going the jack with this bowl.
And he's got the advantage now. Of course, he could use the inside of that last bowl of Shane Rogers. Come off the inside of that bowl. It's just about a direct line down to the jack.
Shane won't be happy with that bowl.
And it looks as though he's close, or got the hole again, has he? No, he just went through. So I'll take you now to...
Bye, Shane.
Right, I am here rinkside with Jock, and Jock, we're just going to catch up in a minute, but I'm just going to give a quick update on what's happening around the other rinks. So at the moment in the women's semi-finals, Auckland's Carlton Cornwall are up 12-0 after 9 ends. In the other women's semi-final, North Harbour's Takapuna are up 7-6 over Wairarpa's Featherston after 9 ends as well. In the other men's semi-final, very tight affair, Marlborough's Kaikoura 6, playing Northland's Whangarei 7 after 7 ends there. So just quickly, we're here catching up with Jock, and Jock may well be the oldest competitor here at the National Championships Fours. A little bit about you, Jock. Where are you from? How old are you? And are you really enjoying your bowls?
I am indeed. I'm from Oamaru. I'm 89, and I'm really enjoying my bowls.
Excellent. Is this your first time at a national event?
No, I was in the juniors in 97, 98, 7. I made the national junior sevens. The fours, and we went to Nainai in Wellington.
Excellent. Now, Jock, you've also got another. Other than you've missed your hearing aid for today,
yes,
you've got another problem as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I've lost one of my hearing. Well, my hearing aid battery went flat. The other two in my pocket didn't work. So here we are.
And Jock, you struggle with your vision as well?
Yes, I'm in the Blind Foundation. The last 5 years, my eyes have deteriorated.
But you're still out here playing bowls?
Yes, the boys, I was going to toss it in, and the boys, my mates, wanted me to play, just play lead or second jock, and here we are.
And can you, can you see the jack? Is that, how do you go?
Not really. I struggle, like, especially in the yellow jacks, I struggle like hell. It goes in and out of focus.
So what happens? Do the boys
The boys tell me, give me the weight sing outs on the 2 metre jock, or put their foot out, give me the weight. A lot of it's just probably luck, you know what I mean?
Oh, that's brilliant, Jock.
After playing 28 years, you get the hang of it a bit, yeah.
Yeah, you do. And at the end of it, the boys ask you to drive home as well, don't they?
Yes. Yeah, sure do.
Brilliant. Hey, thanks so much. Back to you, Kevin and Gary.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers.
So it was Jock from down south. Interesting, Gary. They just seem to have changed this length.
They have. They've put the mat up a bit, haven't they?
They have changed the length, and it is now, of course, the men of a two-side. The Shane Rogers, Dave Newell, and Jason Ranganui and Ken Ferguson, who are now leading the Adam Hayward side. Matt Johnson, Jason Prout, and Mark Matthews leading. They're leading 10-9, and it's that change straight away. I seem to put Mark Matthews, the team's lead, just off his line, and so Jason Prout, the number 2 for the Tim's side. This looks on a good line. This bowl sits underneath the Marshall bowl, will it? Yes, it will. And comes down towards the jack. Gets an applause from Adam Hayward. That last end, really, Gary, it was very unfortunate for Adam Hayward. Both bowls, he just, literally centimetres away on both bowls, wasn't to get a perfect result. And thus, he's dropped 4 shots now in the last 2 ends. So he's nothing in this semi-final, 10-9.
He won't be too unhappy. He had the right line.
Proud, he's got the shot there.
2
shots, sits alongside, gets a roll on the Ken Ferguson bowl, rolls that out of the head. Definitely be laying 2. Dave Newell now from Terrace End on the back end. On this, the 10th of 15 ends with the Manawatu side leading 10-9 after 9 completed 15 ends. Yeah, you can see there, Gary, it's a completely different draw, isn't it? That bowl is, that came back a long way to...
It did, and he controls that flick very well, doesn't he?
He certainly does, and that would have drawn the shot, would have that last bowl of Dave Newell's. So Matt Johnson now on the backhand. You can see there, certainly a different line with the Johnson bowl, trying to get Matt Johnson trying to get to the jack, and he's close. He's very close, and he makes 2 of that. It's a touch, sits right in front of it, the front toucher. And you're right about the jack, Gary. It just literally had 1 roll. Front toucher, just really 1 roll of the jack.
If that had been a white jack, it would be at least 1 to 2 feet off.
So here now is Newell trying to play down to reach to the shot bowl. He's close, just going to get by. Yeah, it was a valiant attempt, but you can certainly see those bowls that Dave Newell's have certainly got a different line for sure. So it'll be the Thames side now holding 2 shots as Matt Johnson plays his second and last bowl on this, the 10th of 15 ends. And he's slightly wider with this, but he'll go behind the head, and Adam Hayward, he won't mind that.
That's another shot. Maybe.
Maybe another shot, because the closest bowl, of course, for the Manawatu side is the bowl of their number 2s of Jason Ranganui, which is sitting jack low, or literally jack level, but everything to play for here is Hayward. And these are the ends right now, Gary, as you'd know with your experience. Sure, we still have quite a few ends to go to the 15, but this we just can't let the game get away, can you?
No. I think 1 down's a good option here.
Yeah, you just can't let it get, you drop a 3 or something here, you're really in, you're starting to not chase, but just put in that pressure. And here is Shane Rogers on that
good.
draw. It looks on a fairly good line, trying to get down to the turn to bowl through the head. That, in fact, was the Jason Prout bowl. And that may only be the one now. Having a look. Didn't give anything away. Having another look is definitely holding one.
No, they're keeping that to themselves.
Very much themselves. There's no, no inclination there. No one telling us what's going on. That's okay. We'll see what Adam Hayward now at the Thames skip. By goodness, this is so.
That's interesting.
I think what he's saying is that bowl's worth 5 shots.
Must be.
Because that brings the Marshall bowl in. Those two are Prouts. That one over the other bowler Johnson.
I'm not sure.
Is that the shot to play?
That's lower the jack, so
Lower
anything
the
could
jack.
happen. Hit it on the wrong side, and anything could happen.
Well, you get the inside going, and it cuts back in. The jack could actually move against you. You know, you're in front 10-9. You're holding the shot. And any seasoned bowler would tell you that running at jack-low bowls trying to get results is not really what one would say is the best percentage option, unless you're chasing shots.
Exactly. They obviously know something we don't.
Well, the other thing is he can play on the draw, get the inside of that man of a 2 bowl, get down the jack, and he's got 4 shots. So it's, yeah.
I don't think we'll see him do that again.
I don't think so.
Plus, Shane's not going to be that far away.
Well, that's on a tidy line as it's coming down towards that shot bowl. He could get the inside of it. He'd get the inside and get all the way to the jack. Doesn't do so. Now, that shot that we just saw played by Adam Hayward is certainly no longer in the book. And so, number 3 there, you'll see Matt Johnson indicating to Adam Hayward how much room you've got to draw on the forehand. As Hayward needs to come past that front bowl, and they already conceded. That's not going to happen, so it's a 1. So we're all locked up, 10 all the 10s. 10 ends gone, and 10 apiece. So this is anybody's game, and the other semi-final, of course, is anybody's game at all, with it being just 7-6 after 7 ends to the Northland side. That's the side of Ian Bowick, Dean McMurtry, Bruce Horscroft and John Anderson. They're leading the Marlborough side, Scott Mansfield, Warren Brown, Craig Smith and Leroy Wahariri by 7 shots to 6. In the women's, it is the side of Karen Hema, Linda Rolfe, Lisa Bordeaux and Judy Wong. They're up against the Pukekohe side of Sharon Shagroon, Shirley Nazy, Cheryl Brownlee and Kathy Steiner. And it's the Karen Hema Auckland side who are leading 12-0. In the other semi-final, we've got Wendy Jensen, Anne Doreen, Trish Hardy and Sky Renee out of North Harbour up against the Tania Wheeler, Janelle Frew, Dale Rowe, Olivia Mensa side. And after 9 ends gone, it is Jensen that leads 7 shots to 6. So one of the women's semi-finals at this stage, a bit of a runaway, bit of a one-horse race to the Hema side. The other semi-final of the women's is very close, as it is in the other men's semi-final. So 3 of the semi-finals are anybody's at this point in time. Our feature game, the game between Adam Hayward of Thames and Shane Rogers of the Terrace End of the Manawatu. And we're all locked up at 10 apiece after 10 ends, as we see Ken Ferguson with a good opening bowl. So on the back end is Mark Matthews. He's on a good line, is he, to get to the bowl? And he moved the bowl, set the shot bowl out, made shot of it. Shane Rogers just saying same bowl. Good indication there though from Shane Rogers really saying to Ken Ferguson, if you're over the head, don't have to get the shot. If you're over the head, that's just as good. And
really, he just wants second shot, doesn't he?
He does. I'm going to sit inside this bowl for second shot. Is he just going to go by? It's over the head.
That's good.
Good spot there. Leaves a good jack trail on that backhand side for the Manawatu side. Straight away, we see Adam Hayward trying to get that cover on those trail shot bowls. On the forehand is Jason Prout, urging the bowl to come back. And handy is the call from Hayward. And the right call from Shane Rogers, getting him saying to his number 2, Jason Aranganui, draw up and make the back bowl your target. And that's the right philosophy, really, Gary, isn't it? Rather than saying the front is the target area.
Looks a bit light.
They had a half decent line, but lacked that yard of weight.
Yep. Well, second shot's good.
So Hayward saying to his Jason Prout, just get past those front bowls, get him behind there, and you can make it count. And how far is this going to run through that centre line? This looks a good line, this bowl of Prout's, and it is. That'll count. Well played by the Thames number 2. So Jason Ranganui trying to get down, and as you rightly said, Gary needs to have that weight, doesn't he? For his, not going to get the shot result, but going to come in behind the head and be the deepest bowl on the rink.
Considering he's a third-year bowler, that's a very, very good bowl. He gave it a chance.
And of course, here's the chance for a touch on the jack here for Matt Johnson, can change the head around considerably and just make it a wee bit more difficult for the Manawatu side. But that's on the wide side, that bowl of Matt Johnson's. And you're 100% right, Gary, that well, the green's running well. The lines are very defined, aren't they? Yep. It's and here is.
He likes it.
Yeah, well, he's been impressive, his duel. But how far is this going to come back? Looks it's going to stay outside the bowl of Mark Matthews, only a yard and a bit over. So Matt Johnson from the Thames Club. There's a better line with this bowler, number 3 for Adam Hayward. Just going to run by, but he won't mind that. Turns up Matthews' bowl out, but still, well, it's a good bowl because it sits in that triangle of the trail, doesn't it?
Where
it does. The 2 bowls of Ken Ferguson's are.
Again, he's this shot should be through the head, not trying to draw it.
And you're right, that's the danger, isn't it? And you fall short, just like we're going to see, and you straight away cut that line off, don't you, to the Gary, clean to the shot bowl, don't you?
Made it difficult.
He knows that. Shake of the head there from Rogers, and you're quite right in that, Gary. It's that when you're in those positions, especially on carpet, when you know your bowl's not going to move very far away, you've got to play through the line.
Yep. Well, he's really taken the one of the options away from Shane, unfortunately.
Well, it does help to give the Thames side a wee bit more control of the head, one would say, the way they're. Because the shot options for the terrace inside have been now a bit limited. And falling short there on the line. Need a metre and a half of weight, did Hayward.
Knowing Shane, he will be thinking about the drive.
I was just going to say, is he looking at that drive down through those 2 bowls to try and dislodge the... Because there's not very much on, is there, really?
No.
There's certainly not very much on the draw as this we play the 11th of 15 ends. This men's semi-final at the Bowls New Zealand Men's Champion and Champion Fours. Shane Rogers makes his way back to the mat. And it'll be interesting to see really Gary what weight he decides upon, but it looks heavy. Looks like big weight. Trying to get to the Marshall bowl, gets it clean, but I think would still be one down.
This angle's hard, isn't it? It's hard to tell which is the shot.
There's a bowl of Jason Ranganui's, which is low of the jack, but
they're saying Thames Valley is still saying they've got the shot.
And they got one that looks to be the bowl of Matt Johnson's, which is so Adam Hayward is playing his last bowl on the 11th end, and he's going to be narrow.
He doesn't want to be touching that bowl.
No, he doesn't want to touch that front bowl. And I'll change over to Mark Cameron, who's out on the green there, and I know he's got Josh De Jong with him.
We are here rinkside, and now there are those people that say that bowls is a game for young people, but and we just met Jock before, who was 89 years of age, and I thought I won't be able to top that, but I've actually found Josh, and Josh is in our audience, and Josh is playing bowls, and he's actually from this club. Josh, how old are you?
I'll be 102 in September this year.
And Josh, are you still playing bowls?
I still play bowls for the Cosy Club, yes.
And over the years, you would have mounted a few titles and things?
Yes, I've been pretty lucky. I've got 61 club titles, club championships, 6 or 7 Auckland Centre titles, and 3 counties titles.
Oh, and that's a number of years you've been playing bowls then.
Yes, I just can't remember when I really joined, because I was instrumental with a lot of the other old farmers at Kiowa when we built the Kiowa Bowling Club.
Yep.
And yes.
And you still enjoy your bowls? Are you out there skipping, or where have they slotted you?
I'm playing number 2 now.
Excellent, yes. Excellent. Josh, it's lovely to meet you down here, and thank you so much. And at 102 years age of September, there are those that do say that bowls is a game for young people, but Josh, you're a credit, and thank you so much.
Thank you, good.
Back to you, Kevin.
Thank you, Mark. And yeah, Josh De Jong, one of the true legends, and for those who know the Kiowa area, the Kiowa pub, best fish and chip shop in New Zealand. In behind the Kiowa pub used to be where the tennis club and the bowling green was at Kiowa, and then they moved up and they played at Hauraki North up by the golf course on Highway 27, and Josh then moved to Auckland and played with the iconic group in the eastern suburbs at St Heliers and Mission Bay with Vic McLean, and they won numerous Auckland titles, and Josh still playing fantastic, and his daughter Karen, of course, is part of the very strong Carlton Cornwall club, and here watching today. So yeah, Josh De Jong, 102 coming up. Not a bad effort, Gary, is it?
Amazing, isn't it? And didn't he impressed me with his the way he acted, well, just what he had to say, really.
Well, there's not many at 100 and just rising to 102. So he was here this morning, but drove home to have some lunch, and then drove back down there. Just had his driver's license renewed.
Amazing.
And and you notice not wearing glasses either.
No, not like some of us.
He's an amazing guy. So back to the bowls, a touch on the jack by Ferguson, the lead for the tennis inside, just nudged it slightly closer to the lead bowls of Mark Matthews as we play Ian 12 with now 11-10. The Thames side leading in this their semi-final of the New Zealand's men's champion and champion fours, and it's getting down to the nitty-gritty part of the game now, for sure, Gary, isn't it?
It is, and I think this is a very good bowl. There's only one way this jack's going.
Absolutely, and it's going right down towards where that 2 metre mark is, and that bowl of Jason Prout sat just literally just outside that of the 2 metre mark. Here is now Jason Ranganui, the number 2 for Terracine, the 3rd-year player. Going to be narrow, unfortunately. He'll make amends with his next. And of course, just a touch on the jack can be a bit of a bonus here as well for the Tim side, because it really does reduce the shot options. Of course, now there's another behind the head bowl going in there for the Tim side, and we'll see whether Jason Ranganui can just adjust that line, and he has adjusted his line from his first. Has he adjusted enough with his weight? No, he hasn't. So big shoulders here. Dave Newell really got to get the shot, or second shot for the Terracine side.
It's not looking too good at the moment. No,
it's not. It's one of those heads which can just build up against you, and this ball will sit inside, will just get jack level and will count, and not sitting close enough to the jack to be used for a slide. So here we'll see David Newell, who's been pretty impressive on the forehand now, is Newell, and certainly gets a good draw out of his bowls with that flick. And just, how's the weight going to be? Just going to lack weight on that. And of course, the other thing which is happening as well, Gary, is the attacking option down through that centre line with those short bowls.
It's gone.
It's gone, literally gone, hasn't it? So it's just becoming challenging, and that bowl of Johnson's, it's going to be very, very narrow. You'd be disappointed with that, leading 11-10.
I don't expect to see a short bowl here.
And now David Newell trying to make amends, trying to urge the bowl on. We know that it'll draw a lot at the finish towards the jack. Exactly what he's doing, just going to go by.
That's very good.
But it's a good, effective bowl on the head now for the Manawatu side. Touch on the jack for the Terracine side. If Shane Rogers get a touch on the jack, all to their advantage now, Gary.
Well, it gives Shane something to play to. Without that, he didn't have an option. He had to beat their 3rd bowl. Now he can at least play to that back bowl, and if he touches the jack, it's all good.
So Adam Hayward, skip, leading 11-10, the Thames side. Here he is on the forehand. Don't think that's got the weight. And that's certainly any thoughts of playing with weight down on the centre line has just been completely gone.
Yep.
Because there's no centre line now.
I don't think Shane will mind. He'll just make sure he's reaching.
Well, the bowl of Dave Newell just changes the on the head for him, doesn't it? Because he knows he's not scrambling to get out of trouble. A touch on the jack, in fact, could make 2 shots of it. So that was a very good bowl of Newell's. As we watch this bowl of Shane Rogers, calling it the hurry to the jack. This is a good response, this bowl. This is a good bowl from the Manawatu player. Gets plenty of applause from his skip, and I see the number 3, Matt Johnson, also applauding it, and he'd be delighted with that bowl.
Well, those short bowls aren't helping.
Well, they're not now helping the Tim side. Hayward on the forehand. That looks under the line as well. It is. Well, full marks on this head to David Newell and Shane Rogers, because a head that wasn't looking too good. They managed to turn it around and put the pressure back on the Tim side.
Well, Shane's got a chance for a 3 here.
He has. And just quickly, I said those women's semi-finals, the last update saw Karen Hema of Auckland leading Sharon Sigrun of Counties Manukau, and we had Wendy Jensen up against Tania Wheeler, and Wendy Jensen leading that game 7-6 after 9. As we watch this bowl of Shane Rogers trying to get through, doesn't want to knock that bowl inwards. And well played by the Terracine side. And Julie gets applause, does Shane Rogers from his 3, David Newell, because it wasn't looking good at all, Gary, was it?
No, and we're at the business end of the game now with only 3 ends to go, all tied up.
Well, it's interesting. We've seen a 4 that the Tim side scored on the third end, a 3 on the very first end to the Terracine side, and a 3 on the 9th end again to the Terracine side. Other than that, it's really been ones, so it's pretty tight, isn't it?
Very, very good game.
Jack.
In terms of time, I don't think they have a problem with the time limit of 2 hours 15, so we should see the whole 15.
Has the time limit been has it been challenging?
Yes. It was going to be 2 hours, but 2 hours was not doable, and it was increased to 2:15. You can get through it. Some teams are getting 13 or 14 if they have a kill or 2.
Well, this one looks okay, this semi-final.
Yes.
So now, important now for these leads. Ken Ferguson, who started off so well, but we saw after about 3 ends, Mark Matthews, the Thames lead, get into his work. And Ferguson is drawing about 2 feet lower than Jack.
Yes, this is when you want your lead to be right on it.
So here is Mark Matthews. Going to be on the wider side. And you might have heard there, David Newell just saying, encouraging Ken Ferguson, just beat your last. So here is Ferguson. He'll play on the back end.
Looks a bit wide too.
Yeah, it's got a long way to come back. Trying to encourage the ball into the head was David Newell. So here is the lead for the Tim side. Mark Matthews, you see the hand slap. And it's a pretty good line, this ball from Mark Matthews. Just going to go in behind the Jack. Jack high. That's a good bowl from the lead, the Thames lead. So what's for yourself now, Gary, in the Wairarapa? Is the season now, or you finished, or have you got?
No, we're trying a new initiative over the winter. We're putting on a mixed triples centre event for the first time, played on one of our 3 artificial greens. So we're trying to encourage people to get out during the winter and keep their bowls going.
Well, we're seeing now, aren't we? That's certainly. Also, what we're seeing as well now, which is great, is the mixed events now. They're an everyday occurrence, and we will just cross over now to Mark Cameron, who'll give us an update from around the boards.
Just a quick score update from around the other rinks. At the moment in the women's semi-final, I can confirm that Auckland's Carlton Cornwall have defeated Counties Bowls Pukekohe, so they are now through to the final of the women's Champ 4s this year. In the other semi-final, women's semi-final, very tight, 12 ends done. and North Harbour's Takapuna is up over Wairarpa's Featherston 9-8 over 12 ends. And in the other men's semi-final, Marlborough's Kaikoura 7 with Northland's Onirahi. Apologies if I've called them whangarai in the past. 9, so Onirahi's up 9-7 from Northland after 10 ends. Back to you, Kevin.
Thank you, Mark. And Onirahi, you'd remember that, Gary. There's some pretty prominent players in the years gone by. Onirahi, John Dunn, Gordon Bond, who in fact we saw Gordon Bond last week in Hastings. He's now retired, living in Mangakino, and him and his wife were travelling around the countryside in a camper van, seeing New Zealand. And in fact, he represented Waikato in the champion singles out of the Patariri clubs up there. John Dunn and Gordon Bond were two. Well, they were household names, weren't they?
They were. I was lucky enough to play with them in the Super 8s with the Tri-North team.
It was a great event, wasn't it, that Super 8s? We go back a few years to that representative fixture. Yeah, the Super 8s played at the Waikato, and interesting, well not interesting, just shame, that complex is now gone, closed up. That's tragic. It was built mainly by a lot by the Hamilton City Council, multi-green complex with grass greens and artificial surface, had right next to Rugby Park in Hamilton, and is now no longer in existence, deserted. And there was a magnificent complex, Gary, wasn't it? In Hamilton City.
I didn't actually know it had gone, so it is a shame. Enjoyed playing there.
It was a great event, the Super 8s.
It was.
Fantastic event. So here is Dave Newell. It looks as though it is still the Marshall Bowl. That looks shot, but bowl's coming back a long way as the bowl of Dave Newell's great effort. You'll hear the call from Shane Rogers.
Find that hole, mate. Even if you're under here.
So playing on the backhand will be Matt Johnson on the end 13 with the scores all locked up, 11 all. How wide's that line?
He didn't like it, did he?
Didn't like it. And of course lacking weight as well. And a lot of short bowls on this particular end from both sides. Actually, it's a bit of a wall to get through there. And just to confirm, the side of Karen Hema, Linda Ralph, Lisa Prideaux and Judy Wong of Auckland are through to the final, which will be played later on this afternoon, which will be bringing you that coverage. They are through to the final of the Women's Champion of Champion Fours, and they'll play the winner of the Wendy Jensen Tania Wheeler game, which at this stage it's North Harbour, the Jensen side, leading 9-8 after 12 of the 15 ends. Lisa Prideaux, the number 2, of course, in that Karen Hema side, earlier on this year, teaming up with Val Smith, won the Somerset National Pairs for the second year out of 3. Semi-finalist the other year, so that's a pretty outstanding effort from Lisa Prideaux. As we see now, Shane Rogers trying to get past to get to the shot. He's going to get feathered and he'll get the shot. He does, just got a touch on the bowl.
Well thought out, bud. 3 options out there.
Well, the thing is here, Gary, or those lot of short bowls there, Adam Hayward can't get caught in the trap of trying to dead draw to the jack. He's got to play through with weight to try and get some movement, because if we saw there, Shane Rogers used a bowl to get to the jack area, to get to the shot.
Looks like a through shot onto that white front bowl.
It's one of those heads where you've got to make sure that you're playing a good yard through the head. And he is certainly doing that, trying to get to the shot bowl. Well, that was it the shot bowl that Jackie was really going for? Either or, isn't it? You know, the reality is the shot bowl, you can only get to the side of the shot bowl, is the hardest shot, isn't it?
Yep. He was going to err on the narrow side because he doesn't want to.
He doesn't want to get to the Marshall bowl. And, you know, it's good to play with that sort of weight because he's not in danger of dropping a number of significance. So, I've been playing for a one-shot result is fine. We see Shane Rogers now on his forehand after getting the shot with his first bowl on this, the 13th end. On a good line again, trying to get past through that narrow port under the front bowl. And well played there. Two magnificent bowls, of course, for the Thames player. He's got now the jack. He's got a wee bit to use there, hasn't he? Inside of the bowl.
I think you'll see him go faster.
And he certainly is trying to get down to that count area, going to get the shot bowl. Got the kill. Jack goes out. Julie got applause from the... And that's the first kill that we've seen. But the shot with a lot of weight was always the likely shot there, Gary, wasn't it? So 11 all, still sit at 11 all as we play now at the 13th end. There's the replay, as you see, straight through onto the jack was Adam Hayward. That's the first sign of real aggression that we've seen and gave him the right result.
That was definitely the percentage shot, wasn't it?
Oh, it certainly was. Even if you didn't get the kill, you're going to remove a couple of bowls and who knows what happens. So Ken Ferguson now will deliver the jack. Terrace inside, as Gary rightly said earlier on in the commentary, this will be the last event for the Terracean Club as they are merging with the Northern Club to form North End, with both names being used, not a hyphen.
Yeah, they made sure I knew it was two words too, North and End.
Yeah, so both clubs retaining their identity. You look at the Northern Club. We look at some of the players, the Scoglins, Russell Meyer, the Sellers family coming out of that. Sharon Sims, certainly been out of the Northern Club in years gone by. Some of our iconic players, long-time New Zealand representatives, have come out of the Northern Club. Been a very strong club in the Manawatu for a number of years. And of course the other club, which was still there, is the Palmerston, what used to be the Kevin Wing Club. I presume that's still going, is it? And it's under its own banner, is it?
As far as I know, isn't it good to see clubs making decisions to get together to make sure they succeed?
Well, as you know, Gary, I was involved in the administration of Auckland Bowls for a number of years, and it pleases me now that I'm no longer, it pleases me that after my involvement and certainly being an advocate, I was an advocate for the merging of clubs, that we're seeing it happen and enhancing their activity within the community as well, as we've seen, for example, with Royal Oak being a classic example of that. And we're seeing it in a number of places around the countryside now, and it's certainly the way to go. And with the shorter formats of the games as well, from your community point of view, Gary, it certainly, it opens the invitation up for people to come in.
It does, doesn't it?
And the other things, of course, of which clubs are now doing is as well they're taking down those big fences, and where a bowling club used to be a place in behind a hedge or a big fence or whatever, and you had to be suitably attired to go there. And it's also full marks to all of the club administrators and centres and Bowls New Zealand, because I think we're now reaping the rewards of adapting to change.
Yep, and I think more and more people are realising for $200 or $300 they can buy a good set of used bowls and get out there and
absolutely
try.
And they don't have to give you a whole weekend away. If you just want to play on a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning, whatever, there's events that you can, or during the week. And it's amazing now that the number of other retired sports people from other sporting codes who are now part of the bowling fraternity, the media.
Yes.
You know, there's been a lot. You know, John McBess, Grant Nesbitt, Wyn Gray, who's Wyn Gray over on the North Shores, an absolute bowls tragic, doesn't go lightly. So there's certainly a number of Darcy Watergrave who. So it's great to see that.
On the racing side, you've got at Nine-Eyed Des Coppins.
Oh, I certainly have. You know, and the good thing about that alliance with Nine-Eye, when we were down there recently for the Bowls 3-5 event, that's right. Des Coppins and a couple of others had organised a day out at the Trentham races for the members of the Nine-Eye Club, and they went en masse by bus out to Trentham, had a day at the races. And it's good to see those sorts of activities as we see Matt Johnson playing his last bowl, and this will count as well. Now this becomes a bit of pressure now on the Manawatu side, on the terrace end side. But now we've got Dave Newell, who's been Mr. Steady really in this terrace end side. You're just hoping that he's got the weight, was the call from Shane Rogers. No, he doesn't, and that sadly sits right on that backhand draw line. And all of a sudden, this head now, the 13th, is a big door open for the Thames side. Holding, be 3 shots they're holding.
3 shots, yes.
And all really that Shane Rogers can do. The draw's really the only shot option to him. And really, where is that draw line for Rogers, Gary, with those front bowls?
That's a good question. If he plays under it, he's going to have to really aim to get a good second shot, unless he gets very lucky.
Well, perhaps it is one of those heads where with your first bowl, second shot is the key, isn't it? Because you could then be looking at 4 down when you go to play your last bowl.
And if he's too tight, he's going to push another one in for 4.
So I see there, Sharon Sims, former New Zealand player, and also on that side, another former New Zealand player, Jessie Ann Law. So this becomes this replay of the 13th end. This could be the end that has a big bearing, and no doubt Shane Rogers, we can see by his body language, Gary, he realises that I've got a big job, I've got to, looking at all the angles of where he can get down to get the shot.
He'd be hoping to clear that front one and just get something close.
And as Gary rightly said, the key thing here really is to get, if you got the shot, that's a bonus, but the key thing here is to get second shot and not be looking at 4 down. So this needs to get through this port, needs to get through the port, and doesn't do so, was on a great line. He more than likely had just about dead draw weight, Gary, through that port.
He's given himself room now.
He can draw to the rear, the jack level bowl. And of course the big thing here for Hayward, he doesn't worry too much about the back because the draw is what he's going to be doing, but Hayward doesn't want to give a shoulder anywhere around the head, does he? That Shane Rogers can come off to draw through to the jack.
I see him probably aiming for 9 inches through that jack, movement just a little bit to the side, cover it up.
So Adam Hayward playing his first bowl on this, the 13th end. As Gary and I feel he's holding 3 shots at this stage. Needs to get into this port or just past to the red Marshall bowl to get close to counting. I don't think it will do so. The 4th shot, I think, is the darkest bowl in the front, and I presume that's the number 2's bowl in front there, Jason Rangaruri.
He's gone heavy.
He's gone heavy and wide. So this could be a telling end. Well, you can see there Matt Johnson just placing his foot there. That's the jack level draw, really, isn't it?
It is.
Gary,
it is.
that's It's the big, just don't bring your green in, just take that jack level draw, and if you get the jack level draw to there, there's every likelihood that you're going to count.
Yep. No, the only danger is if he cuts his green. So if he keeps it out there, he's holding 3 and he'll get 4.
So definitely the wider side is the safe side, and it looks as though he's done just that. Gary, they're coaxing this bowl into the head, gets a feather, and you would think we'll see.
3.
3 was 3. Well, that's a big number at this point, really, Gary, isn't it?
It is. It is.
14-11 now to the Thames side of Adam Hayward, Matt Johnson, Jason Prout and Mark Matthews. They now lead 14-11 over the Terracine side of Shane Rogers, David Newell, Jason Ranganui and Ken Ferguson as we go to the 14th end. And I can tell you in the women's event, one of the finalists has been found, that being the Carlton Cornwall side, Karen Hema, Linda Ralph, Lisa Prideaux and Judy Wong. And they will play the winner of the Wendy Jensen and Doreen Trish Hardy Sky Arene side of North Harbour. And they're up against the Tania Wheeler, Janelle Frew, Dale Rowe and Olivia Manson side out of the Wairarapa. And at the last count, it was 9-8 to Wendy Jensen after 12 of the 15 ends. And in the other men's semi-finals, it was the Whangarei side out of the Onerahi Club of Ian Bowick, Dean McMurtry, Bruce Horscroft and John Anderson, who had their nose in front 9-7 after 10 ends over the Marlborough side of Scott Mansfield, Warren Brown, Craig Smith and Leroy Wahariri. So 3 on this 13th end, Gary. It's a bit of work in front of the Manawatu boys now.
And they don't want any short bowls.
No, they don't. Straight away we see now after that 3, the body language of Adam Hayward just encouraging his team on it. Mark Matthews' lead. And looks as though this is going to be under the line. Needs to get clean under this bowl, and he's going to do so. And as you said before, Gary won't go very far. He was under the line, but it'll sit jack level. That's a very good bowl.
They want this bowl at least a foot over.
Up there, Jake. Front touch is good, mate. Come on, Jake.
So the Marshall Bowl, the lead for the Thames side, and of course, as you said rightly before, Gary, this isn't the end for the Manawatu boys to be short of the head, because it just... So Jason Ranganui, he's doing his utmost here to draw the shot, and it just drifts by. And that's a good bowl, and just second shot. So Adam Hayward indicating that we're holding the shot and leading by 14 shots to 11 after a 3 on the 13th end. So we've got Jason Prout again. He gets under this bowl clean. He won't quite do so. Got a touch on it. Plenty of encouragement there by Shane Rogers to his number 2, to Jason Ranganui, the third-year player, on his forehand. Certainly got this bowl out on that wider arc. And of course, we'll be bringing you the women's final. We'll be bringing you the live coverage of that final when that gets underway. Very good bowl coming here from Johnson gets due applause, sits on the Marshall bowl. We were just wondering how we're going on the time box. 2.25 hours. So
I've just been told that there is no time limit for the semis, so that's good.
right, semi-finals, finals, no time limit. So we see the bowl of Dave Newell's. Newell's just finished jack level. Holding one was the call from Adam Haywood, and really to hold one on this, the 14th end, is a big one, really, Gary, isn't it?
It is. I think they have to take a chance here and be positive to that jack. Just move it. They can't afford to have 2 seconds.
No. So looking at it is Shane Rogers, because as Gary rightly said, you know, you've got to do something to. So you might have heard there, Shane Rogers saying, tighten your line a wee bit, played down through here, and as we know, the draw line of Dave Newell's is different to the others' bowls, but unfortunately he's going to be short, and that really couldn't have finished in a worse place for the Terrace End players, because that's right, you can see there, it's a straight line from the jack to that bowl. Jenny Anderson, I see sitting there, of course paid in the bowls 3-5, and it's an inaugural year with her partner, played with Grizz Wiley. They've just recently moved up into the Marlborough Sounds. They've got a place up there, a few miles, a few kilometres out of Picton, and looking right over Queen Charlotte Sound, a lovely spot, retirement spot up there.
I think Adam just wants to be over the head, really.
He does, and he's getting down past, sits on the Marshall bowl.
Last thing he wanted was to give him a shoulder.
Well, I just wonder whether the best shot option here for the Manawatu side is to try and get that. You're right, Gary. There's the Ferguson bowl, Ken Ferguson bowl, which is sitting low of the jack, and you know that's the area to try and get some turn onto a bowl, because otherwise you're just sort of playing at holes, aren't you?
Either that or Shane's going to take a risk and drive, knowing that the front bowl's protecting his shot, and hopefully get the jack and kill it.
It certainly, though, it highlights again, doesn't it, the suicide effect of what short bowls bring you. So here, as we thought, trying to play down on the backhand side to get to the Ken Ferguson bowl, had the weight to do so, but it's going to be on the wide side. You know, reality is, Gary, I would just about say you've got a triangle of bowls up there in the front. You could just about drive to the front of those bowls and see what happens, because we know how difficult. You're only trying to play the half a bowl there to get that turn onto the bowl, and I just wonder at this stage of the game to try and drive it, that triangle, and see what happens.
Yep. Well,
I think he has to now.
It's looking at the line of his last bowl, it didn't come back far enough to actually rest the shot bowl.
So I think he's got to drive and see whether he can get down to the bowl, get some follow through. So on the mat is Shane Rogers from Terrace End to play his last bowl on this, the 14th end. Lots of thoughts. What's the best shot to play? Gary and I got one amongst three, but I wouldn't be too concerned about that. Really, it's about trying to get a result to favour yourself, isn't it? Whereby you really have to play at this point in time, Gary, is where the percentages sit, really, don't
exactly. Well, if they drop a one here, 15-11 last end, it's...
I still think that there's a triangle of bowls there, and I think the drive is the drive to that front bowl of the triangle.
I agree.
And just
I agree.
and see where you go, because
I probably would have suggested that the first one, because you got the last bowl to draw it if you have to. You get rid of the stuff at the front.
this is really one shot to stay in the game, isn't it?
It is. It is a big shot.
So back to the Met goes Shane Rogers, knowing he's still undecided. But yes, this looks as though the shot that we talked about, Gary.
Close.
Close.
Shot, bud. Oh, turn to Custis.
He was desperately unlucky there, to be
He
fair.
was.
Oh, unlucky, buddy.
He got the target clean, and the Jack quarter wing bowl came back inside to the head. And in fact, that's shake hands time, because I think that was a 4. I think it was a 4 to the Thames side, and it was. So that gives them a really, I'll call it a 4, but it wasn't a 4 that was really scored, Gary, was it?
It was perfectly hit.
He got the exact target to go for, and the bowls just went the wrong way for him. It sort of rolled back across the green. Bad luck there to the side of Shane Rogers, David Newell, Jason Ranganui and Ken Ferguson, because they've gone down in the semi-final to Adam Hayward, Matt Johnson, Jason Prout and Mark Matthews of Thames by 18 shots to 11. We'll now cross to Mark Cameron, who's going to give us an update on the scores of the other semi-finals.
Thank you. Just a quick update on the other 2 rounds before we finish up this coverage. Just confirming that at this stage Auckland's Carlton Cornwall are in the women's final, having defeated Counties Bowls Pukekohe. In the other women's semi-final, very tight, last bowl being played right now actually. The North Harbour side from Takapuna is up 12-8 over Wairarapis Featherstone, and just confirming that North Harbour's Takapuna have progressed to the final, so they will play Auckland's Carlton Cornwall in the women's grand final, which will be coming up next. In the other men's semi-final, equally tight game, although Northland's Oni Rahi have just sneaked away in the last end. They're up 15-9 after 13 ends in the other men's semi-final. Back to you, Kevin.
Thank you, Mark. And Gary, just to confirm that really it came down to the last 2 ends, didn't it, that semi-final? Really.
It did.
And really, we don't know what the result was going to be, but Shane Rogers, with his last bowl, played the right shot, didn't quite get the result, and it made it way for the Adam Hayward side. Now, you've been around a while. When have you ever seen a Thames side at a New Zealand final?
The answer is I haven't.
Yeah, I can't think of...
The only thing that would be better than a Thames side would be a Wairarapis side.
Well, correct. Well, that nearly happened in the women's, but not to be. So my thank you to Gary Murawai, who's been with me this afternoon.
Thank you.
And bringing you this men's Champion and Champion Fours semi-final. And we'll be back with you to bring you the final of the women's Champion and Champion Fours, where we'll see Karen Hemer of Auckland up against Wendy Jensen of North Harbour.